you need to ground yourself. I think a lot of people, especially ambitious people, just aren't grounded. And that's why I found that a lot of people who are ambitious or who are successful, according to worldly standards, are actually very insecure, because they found their worth in the car that they drive, in the institutions that they work for, in the positions that they hold. But the reality is that those things change. If you've lived long enough and you've experienced life enough, I think you'll know that one moment financially you're up, then the next you're down. One moment you have a career that is seemingly impressive for other people, and the next it's kind of like there are things that are happening there that you can't even explain.
Welcome back to In Conversation with Rudy Samuel. Happy New Year. It's been a long time since I've been back, but I'm back, I'm here. And this is my first episode of the year. I didn't want to start this year with noise and all of that. I wanted to start with depth, because every beginning of the year, we talk about goals, we talk about ambition, we talk about leveling up. But we rarely talk about what ambition actually costs. The pressure, the identity shifts, the emotional weight that comes with wanting more. So if we are going to build this year intentionally, we need to understand the inner game behind the outer success. My first guest of the year is someone I've known since high school. We were 14 years old. I have watched her grow into a leader in one of the most demanding industries in Africa. But today, it's not about a job title. It's about what it takes to rise without losing yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome this year's first guest, Mamello Rantseuoa.
Yay!
Welcome, friend.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for agreeing, yeah.
Super excited to be here. Feels like an achievement.
Yeah.
You've had a podcast for a while. I've been waiting for my invitation, so finally I've made it.
Yeah, no, thanks for accepting. By the way, guys, we were talking on emails. Like, this person is peculiar. People talk on WhatsApp, phone calls.
I don't have WhatsApp.
Who doesn't have WhatsApp in 2026? We planned this on email, like it's super crazy. But okay. I want to go to the beginning. Like, what's your first memory or recollection of us meeting back in high school, and now we almost 30 and now we here?
I know. Definitely during, is it orientation week or whatever it is, but where everyone is split up into the houses.
Yeah.
And I think it was, it was very much like, I don't know if you remember our year, but we were all super happy to be there.
Yeah,
and
true.
No one was like cool. No one was like standing
Not
fish. Not yet. But it was very much like, okay, we had the squad that came from Northcliffe, from that school, and we were all just coming together. So definitely I was with my people that I came from primary school with.
You.
Of course, but we won't brag. And then, you had the different people coming together into one. And I think there was genuinely an openness from everyone's side to be like, oh, okay, who's that? Or, no, I've met that person at the tuck shop. Do you know them? So I think I just remember seeing you in the crowd. It was the swimming, when the houses
swimming gala,
exactly. I must have seen you at a distance, and I think the way that I got to know about you was through someone else saying, oh, do you know Rudy? And I'm like, no, I don't really know Rudy. But I think as the years progressed, and I think as we started to go into our classes a bit more, so for example, I was very close with Smiso knew you well. So it's, I think, through people I got to know you.
Same.
But I'd say that we got to know each other a lot better in grade 10. I think you'd like make fun of me. I think you'd make fun of me. I don't want to say about what, but anyways, but grade 10.
Yeah, no, for real. And then you were even at my wedding, which meant a lot to me, because I know of specific reasons why it was hard for you to come, but you came.
Yeah.
And I think that showed me that now, for real, we're doing this live together.
And I don't know if I've shared this with you. Look, you've always been my friend, always treasured you. I think even post high school, even as a group, like we'd still go out.
Yeah.
But seeing you get married, I literally got so emotional. I was like, guys, I've never seen this out of Rudy, because you're the cool kid. Like
I try.
You're just that guy, right? But then just seeing you so humbly express yourself towards like someone that you're committing to your life to, like for me that was overwhelmingly emotional. I even, when you're walking down the aisle with your mom already, I even have a video of it. I was like, guys, I can't believe this is happening. So thanks for inviting me, and of course anything for you.
And you're doing great, you're doing amazing, and it's an honor to have you here. And I want to go back to the beginning again. When we were in high school, did you ever imagine this version of yourself, like who you are today and what you're doing and the successes that you have?
Okay, high school. So I think I've always just been a super ambitious person, very hardworking, very much I need to be the best.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I know that. That's how I actually got to know of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that has just always been me. Even in sports, I was always trying to be in the A team. I was always super competitive, even with my friends. We were all just high performers. But I think for me, success, doing well, I was like, there is no alternative. I may not have seen myself in terms of what it is that I do today as a banker. I don't think that was necessarily a childhood dream of mine. I think that would be dishonest. But I definitely saw myself doing lots of things. So growing up, I was like, I'm going to be Miss South Africa. No, Miss SA-teen at the time.
Okay, but it's not too late to be Miss South Africa.
I'm no longer, Miss South Africa. I don't know. Like, I'm tall, but I don't think I'm tall enough. I don't know. Anyone can tell me, but guys back home, if what the height restrictions are. But yeah, maybe Miss SA. But honestly, I was just like, okay, I'm going to do Miss SA-teen at the time. And then I was just like, okay, I'm going to become a medical doctor. And for the longest time, medicine was just one of the things that I wanted to do. But then I was just like, but I also want to do corporate. So then I was like, no, then I'll become the CEO of Discovery South Africa, you know. And then I was like, maybe I'll also do corporate law. But then I was like, no, I don't want to do law things. So yes, for a very long time, I've always known that corporate would be, you know, what I want to do. And I was working towards being the CEO of Discovery. So yeah, I guess I can say that to an extent, this is something that I've been working towards for quite some time.
I love that because a lot of people say I've got a bias towards entrepreneurs on this
But you
platform.
do, I've watched.
And that's why I'm trying to open it up now for those who are in corporate. Like I had Chloe back, now I've got you. So I'm trying to, you know, level the playing field. And what would you say, thank you, what would you say would surprise you about who you are today? Like, again, looking back at you at 18, what's your biggest surprise?
The fact that I wear heels is my biggest surprise. No, for real, because I think there's who I am as a person and there's who I've had to become as a professional. And to be quite honest, that hasn't necessarily been an automatic or just an easy shift.
How's that? Yeah. Who you are versus who you've had to become. You didn't choose to become, but you had to become, because if you didn't become, you're going to get left behind.
Exactly. And I think that's just a truth that I think a lot of people need to reckon with, especially if you want to work in corporate. I think corporate just favors a certain type of personality. And I'm not making a value judgment about saying whether it's right or wrong.
100%.
But it's more so, you have to ground yourself in that reality. And I think the sooner you ground yourself in the reality, the quicker you'll start making the changes that you need to make in order to show up in a way that corporate can actually work for you. Because I think there are a lot of people who are disgruntled in corporate. There are a lot of people who are frustrated by it. And it's a function of many factors. But I think when I speak, especially to young professionals, it's just people who haven't come to terms with how that world works. And they want to navigate it fully with, this is just who I am. I'm Mamello, I'm Rudy, and corporate must just accept me. And it doesn't really work that way. You have to
assimilate,
there's a level of assimilation. So I think for me, it's just the way that I dress. I think you do have to position yourself as a person who, you know, you care about things like looking presentable. And yes, looking presentable does look a certain way. At the end of the day, you're interacting with people. You know, yes, it's businesses, but it's people. And people do have their biases in the same way that you have your own biases. You know, so I think that change in terms of how I look has been one of the things that really surprised me. But I think I'm also really surprised with how I think I'm a lot more calmer. In high school or when I was a lot younger, I was Little Miss Personality. I was out there, super out there. But I think over the years, I've actually become very introverted, very
life
reserved.
Humbles you.
Yeah.
I've also noticed that about myself. Although I'm out, you know, I'm emceeing, I'm doing this, but off the camera, off the mic.
Look, even when I had WhatsApp, I definitely remember even telling Prissy, I was like, Rudy's a lot more reserved. Like you keep stuff to yourself where I'm just like, okay, I only know this because I know Rudy personally, but you wouldn't pick that up from socials. So I think that the similar thing has happened to me as well, where I've just become a lot more reserved with time.
You know, in our next segment, you know, we're talking about starting the year with clarity. And a lot of people are starting, you know, the year with big goals and ambitions and stuff. What's the biggest mistake ambitious people make at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of a new season?
I think it's trying to do too many things. You want to fix your health, you want to fix your job, you want to fix your relationships, you want to fix your spirituality. And all those things are good. But the reality is that it's cognitive overload. Like, just for your mind, there are too many levers that you're trying to shift all at the same time. And when you're not seeing progress in the one, it's going to discourage you from even, being, how can I say it, like, to push yourself even forward in terms of the other changes that you may want to make. So, for example, if you want to lose weight, you want to grow spiritually, you want to improve maybe one of the friendships or the relationships that you have, you truly just have to start with the one. Because I think when you start with the one, you're able to give it the energy that it needs. Yeah. Because, for example, I'll maybe just choose losing weight as one. Losing weight, especially for women, is not something that happens overnight. It doesn't happen very quickly. You have to give yourself at least 3 months, and that's even controlling for many factors. Now, if I don't see momentum, if I don't see change, that's coming as a result of eating better, going to the gym, whatever, I'm not even going to have the confidence or the energy to want to then say, okay, maybe now I can divert my energy to now fixing my relationship with God, or, let me work on my friendship with Rudy, or do you get what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of like you have to do the one thing well enough such that it gives you momentum to then say, okay, now I can onboard to the next thing, So I would say that if you're going into the new year with ambition and plans, it's great. Interestingly enough, I don't have New Year's resolutions, but
same, I never have them.
Yeah. Literally no resolutions for me this year. Anyways, but for those who do have resolutions, you definitely want to take it one resolution at a time. Otherwise, it's too much, I think, for the brain and just even for yourself to actually see through.
So then how do you set goals without tying your entire identity to the outcome? So that person you want to be.
Yeah.
How do you set goals without tying your whole being to that person then?
Firstly, I think you need to ground yourself. I think a lot of people, especially ambitious people, just aren't grounded. And that's why I found that a lot of people who are ambitious or who are successful, according to worldly standards, are actually very insecure, because they found their worth in the car that they drive, in the institutions that they work for, in the positions that they hold. But the reality is that those things change. If you've lived long enough and you've experienced, life enough, I think you'll know that one moment financially you're up, then the next you're down. One moment you have a career that is seemingly impressive for other people, and the next it's kind of like there are things that are happening there that you can't even explain, So I don't, and I have never anchored who I am in my profession. And I think it's also a function of I have lots of passions and I express all those passions. So if I say, oh, today I'm a banker, the thing is, it ties me down. In 2 years' time, and if I'm not working as a banker, and Rudy comes to me and says, oh, but Mamello, what are you doing now? Now I'm embarrassed to even show up. And we're friends because, I'm no longer this person that, built a reputation and built, this, how I want people to perceive me as this super fancy person working in this institution or this organization. So I think you first must start and be very intentional about not tying who you are and your self-worth in what it is that you do. Then setting goals then just becomes a sort of like a roadmap to then say, okay, cool. If so for example, I'm a junior banker today, I'm an associate, so the next level for me would be a vice president.
VP.
Do you get me?
Yeah.
So if I want to be a vice president, how I map that isn't in saying that, I'm less of a person if I don't know, I don't have a booming LinkedIn profile, or if I'm not going to conferences, how I map that is, okay, what skill sets do I need to build between now and then in order to present a case that's also very convincing to the decision makers to basically say that Mamello is now ready to step into that role. And it's competencies that I think you should be already working on to basically say, okay, as a vice president, you need to be a person of influence. Yes, in the junior years, it's important. Build on the technicalities, start knowing who's who in the zoo, have a greater understanding of how the organization works and how we create value. Fine, that's all theoretical. But at the VP level, you now have to monetize, those insights. So as an associate, what are you doing now to already start leveraging that insight and turning it into money? Yes, my KPIs aren't necessarily tied to that, but the goals that I'm setting need to say, okay, cool, you understand sector strategy, but how do you deliver that to a client in such a way that they don't feel like you're selling to them? How do you balance the warmness of the relationship, but with also delivering value which can then turn into money at some point? All of those things, it's kind of like those are the building blocks, and those are the goals that you work towards. But at the end of the day, that's a skill set that I can apply in any other part of the business. I don't necessarily think I need to be a banker in order for me to say insights can generate revenue. Do you get what I mean? I can do that in a different capacity. So maybe just to bring it back to your question, how do I not tie my identity in it? You must make the active decision in the beginning, not to be puffed up by where you are and saying, oh, I'm Rudy, I have my own business. What if the business is now going badly and you now have to be an employee again? Do you get what I mean? So from the start, don't tie your identity to things that are going well in your life. And I think when you are then mapping your next, it then just becomes these are just the general skill sets that I need to develop, but they can manifest themselves in entrepreneurship, in me being a doctor, in me being a lawyer, in the various contexts. Of course, it's not, you can't be a doctor and a lawyer at the same time. The skills are, but I think you get my point.
Nice.
And it's more so just about the skills stack.
So I know that in corporate, especially young corporates, when they, rise up, etc., how do you keep yourself disciplined financially? Because oftentimes when it comes to corporate, we talk about getting promoted, getting this position, getting that, but I don't often hear, and I watch a lot of podcasts, like that's all I do. I don't often hear about financial planning. I don't often hear about saving, investments. But I know that you guys are coining it there, at the high positions.
Is that what they say?
So that's what I've heard and seen. So how do you guys sort of handle, that influx of cash and managing it as well?
Look, I'll be the first to say that, and I think it's not a secret. I think a lot of people who work in financial services or in a lot of these large corporates, they're not, people automatically think that they must be good with managing their money. But I personally don't think that's the case, right? But that's just my view. And I can't say what people should and should not be doing, but I can tell you about my experience and what I genuinely would impart to my younger self, right? I think, yes, you will be getting a lot more money than you've ever seen in your life. And I think genuinely, you need to know your money personality. Some people are just spenders. Some people are like savers, and I think the one mistake that I made was that, so I'm a spender. I love spending money. Not that I have a lot of it, but I just love spending money. Even when I was in university, if I was down, because I went to UCT, so I would go to the waterfront and be like, okay, today I'm just shopping, and yes, I'm not necessarily buying super expensive things. I mean, it's an allowance, but I don't mind spending my whole allowance. And then my parents would be like, Mamello, what happened? And I'm just like,
I was down and
out. And so for my money personality is definitely a spender, but how that hasn't landed me in trouble is by virtue of, I think, some certain privileges, honestly, that I have in my life that I've been able to fall back on. So, however, fast forward to who I am now, because I'm definitely not the same person as I was back then. I genuinely think, and this is not textbook advice, this is just real advice, and this is what happened to me. You must have a life event that causes you to wake up. Personally, I had two things that I think caused me to start, thinking about money a lot differently. Because even right now, one of my friends was making a joke and she was like, I don't like this new Mamello. Like, you so, like I think about money now. Whereas before I was just like, what needs to happen? Let's go, let's do it. I don't care. And I think, the two main things that happened in my life that caused me to really just change the way I think about money and just to be a lot more responsible was, firstly, I started a business. Now, for anyone who hasn't started a business, I can tell you it's the most humbling experience you'll ever go through, and it will test you in ways that are unimaginable. Without going into that, financially, when you start a business, you need to be liquid. There are things that will just come up where it's like, okay, it's either you have the money or not. And if you don't have the money to take advantage of those opportunities, the opportunities is out, right? You can't really get into it. So that's the first thing. I was like, okay, cool, Mamello, you need to actually just have cash on hand, because where you are in building, it's just cash, like it's demanding a lot of your cash. So for a while, that's where my salary was going, and that's where a lot of my savings were going. But secondly, I recently had an experience where in that particular month, my expenses shot up so crazily. I mean, obviously I can articulate it. It's just a personal example, but my financial needs changed so quickly. Like within a day, my financial needs shot up exponentially. And the only way I was able to survive that month was because I had cash. Like it's because I had just money that was there. Like I hadn't accounted for it in any way. And it was through those experiences, having to start a business and facing something that needed a lot of money immediately, where I was like living a life where I don't have savings, where I don't have any form of, investments that I can tap into. It's a no for me. It's a no for me. So I do think that people need to learn their money personality as a start. Savers will oversave, but I think with oversaving, it also has its negatives because you're not taking advantage of that season in your young life where, you can take a couple of risks, but that's okay. It has its own pros and cons. But for us who are spenders, and it's something that I can speak to because that's how I was, honestly, the only thing that's going to genuinely cause you to get sober in your mind is when you actually start seeing the value of having savings, because that's what caused me to turn the tide around, in my own personal finances. But it's a bit of a tough one to balance. I will be honest. Yeah.
And talking about growth and all of that stuff, I see you very big on LinkedIn, and you also have your own YouTube channel. So how did that come about? Out of nowhere, you just became this thought leader. Like, yes, in private, yes, we know. Those who know, myself, Priscilla, etc.
Yeah.
But to the world, how did that happen?
I know.
This is just me pivoting. How did that happen?
No, look, it's so interesting.
And how does it feel?
Okay, thanks for that. No one has actually asked me how it feels. Maybe let me start with how it feels, and then we'll go into how it happened. How it feels is, and Rudy, you know me, I'm not a social media person.
Yes.
I'm not.
Bro,
like, okay, I don't.
No DP, no nothing.
Yeah, it's no profile picture, no nothing. Look, I think the older I've gotten, the more, as I said, the more reserved I've become, the more recluse I've become. So social media has just been something, even in my personal capacity, that I've really struggled with. One moment I have an Instagram, then I don't. And then I'm on Instagram, but I don't post. And then I'm on Instagram and you're getting a random message from me, and then you're trying to respond, and then I'm not on Instagram.
Anymore, yeah.
So in my personal capacity, I really do struggle with social media. And I think the last time I was consistent on social media was like maybe 10 years ago. So you now get into this platform, which is LinkedIn, which a lot of people find cringe already, myself included. And you sort of get a little bit of influence on there, and you're just like, wait, what's going on? How I feel about that, genuinely, is I don't like it. I wish there was a way that I could share my insights and people still receive the lessons that I love to teach. Because the thing is, you know what? This experience has taught me that I genuinely love to teach. I love sharing, but I just wish my face wasn't maybe in the forefront. But you can't run away from that, right? So it's not my comfort zone at all, and I don't get used to it. Even though I've been doing it for quite some time, people will think that it just comes naturally. Nope. It hasn't gotten any easier. So yeah, in terms of how it feels, I don't like it. And I wish there was another way. And if I figure out another way, I'll most probably take it. But yeah, we are where we are. But in terms of how it even got to where we are today, literally how it started is that when I joined the current organization that I work for, there was just this whole idea that around personal branding and just the importance of building a profile that is just online. And I think all organizations are pushing for that. And I think it's important for people who are building a career. What happened with me, I remember when we were asked to open LinkedIn profiles, because I didn't even have one at the time, I was like, there's absolutely no way. I'm not going to do that. And then fast forward, maybe in my grad year, one of my seniors was like, Mamello, we're putting that as part of your KPIs. You will get a LinkedIn profile. And it was said in a joking way, but in a way of like, come on, dude, like, just set this thing up. I set it up. It was kind of there, dormant, like I think as how many with a lot of people who are on LinkedIn, you have a profile, but you're not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there we go, yeah.
You're not really doing anything with it.
Just lift it up.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not really doing anything with the profile. And I think after some time, I got invited to do something at the University of Pretoria, a student society, but it's fine because I myself was involved in that society when I was in uni. So nothing major, I post about it, job updates there, whatever. Then in about a couple of years ago, I get invited by my organization's young talent team to say, hey, please come through. We're having orientation.
Huge.
And I know. And when I got that email, really, like, that's not even my normal job. Like, it was just a side thing. I was so excited. Like, I responded to the lady that got in touch with me. I was like, I would love to do it. Just tell me when and where. I'll speak to my boss and just make sure that in terms of deliverables or anything, that is sorted, Anyways, I get the details, and it was going to happen in about 2 months' time. We have the program, and it was great. It went well. Maybe 3 weeks later, I just reach out to the marketing team because I'm like, okay, I have a LinkedIn. Maybe let me just post on LinkedIn about it. So I reach out to them. I get the pictures. And then I just post just as any other person posts on LinkedIn. And I think it was that post that changed everything because for a normal nobody like me, getting close to, I think, 100,000 impressions, 2,000 likes, it's a bit crazy. And I think also because I don't like social media, that attention was very, very overwhelming. It was a lot. But I think more than that, it was people coming back to me and saying, oh my word, I hear you. Thank you so much for sharing this. Like, they just found so much resonance in what I was sharing. And that was basically how it started. One post, people really feeling like they were connecting to what I was saying. And then the requests coming in around, how did you do that? How did you, and me saying, okay, I'm responding to DMs, I'm taking calls because sometimes texting is not like the best format for me because a call, I can just quickly call you whilst I'm doing something else. I think a lot of people, in asking to get insights on just at least my experience on corporate and how I think I could help them, I was just like, okay, listen guys, I can't help you on a one-on-one basis, but then I'll start using my LinkedIn profile just as a teaching platform to basically say, it's like, how could I say it? It's I'm sharing insights, I'm sharing knowledge. Anyone who wants to consume it, you can have it. So I would say that's how it started. But yeah, it
and
definitely
doing really well. I know for you, you don't really, but for us looking in, amazing.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me.
Because I've got you, And also I wanted to know, what are the unspoken rules that young professionals must know going into the start of the year?
Sure, in terms of their corporate life.
Yeah.
Look, I think for me, the first thing is that you must understand that corporate is different from the real world. Let me just clarify that. The corporate world is different from the real world, as in like your personal world. Yes, let me actually put it that way. Your corporate world is very, very different from your personal world. You see, in your personal world, you have people like Rudy, you've known me since we were 14. There are things that I can do that you'll overlook and just say, that's Mamello. Do you get what I mean? Or it's fine, like I'm irritated or I'm upset, but it's fine. We can work over it. Why? Because we have close to 16 years plus of a relationship where we've built enough real estate where you know who I am, I know who you are, and we can, and even in moments where things do go wrong, I think we have enough with each other to be able to repair.
Yeah.
In the corporate world, it doesn't really work like that, especially when you're in your junior years. You don't have leverage. And I think that's one thing that a lot of young professionals don't get. Wow. Because a person who does not have leverage cannot move in the same way that a person with leverage moves. So what do I mean by that? You have to put your best foot forward, whether you like it or not. And sometimes I shared earlier on that, for example, I wear heels now. I'm a lot more done up. Anyone who knows me in my personal capacity will tell you, borderline tomboy.
That's what I said outside. Almost. I was like, I'm getting used to this makeup version of you.
Like in my personal life, genuinely, I could not be bothered. But it's understanding that in this world, and by the way, not that wearing makeup and heels is all that's necessary and it's what you have to do, but you do have that, what's the best professional self or the version of myself that I can present in this, such that, when a senior looks at me, they're like, okay, this is someone who's ready to be put in front of a client. And yes, that's not an aesthetics thing only, but we cannot run away that the look and appearance of things matters, So for me, I just would want young professionals to really, really start thinking about how you're showing up as a professional and to sort of leave certain things for your personal life. You know, you don't, HR will say, come as you are, be yourself. And I think there's definitely room for that. But I want people to understand that better as how do I show up as the best professional version of myself? You know, you can't be, listen, like with my friends, I laugh, I cackle. Like we do too much. I can't do that in the workplace. Yeah. Doesn't necessarily mean that the workplace is unfair it's just understanding what professionalism is and how it shows up and assimilating to that as best as you can. There also is a choice that you have to make to say that I don't want to assimilate, and that is perfectly okay. But then that will come with consequences. Why? Because you don't have leverage. You don't have the 14 years where they can say, Mamello's fine. She's got a hectic, impressive deal list behind her. She's generated revenue. So it's fine. She can show up in sneakers. No one is going to say anything to her. It's like those small things that no one is going to come to you and tell you. But trust me, Rudy, it stacks up. It will make a difference because you then start seeing, but why does Rudy get chosen for certain things? We have the same qualifications. Yeah. We joined the bank at the same time, or we joined certain organizations at the same time. But why do you get to speak to that person? Or why do you have access to that particular deal? And all those things are just based off of conscious and even unconscious biases that people may have to maybe even things like how you present yourself, how you speak. I find that a lot of young professionals don't invest enough time even learning how to speak to people who are senior. In my last
episode, the guy mentioned that as well. Yeah, Mr. Landry, yeah.
There is a way to speak in corporate, and it's not...
I wouldn't survive corporate.
And you know what? I appreciate that self-awareness.
I wouldn't, because I'm so chilled, man. Like,
you're so relaxed,
like
right?
Being done up and stuff. Like, yeah, you must, come up nicely. You must look good.
But then you just like, nah, dude, we're chilling.
Slang if I have to. Like, if I'm in a meeting, guys, come on. I can't say guys in corporate, right?
You can say guys, but maybe not in front of a client. Maybe even then, a client that you used to, maybe it's a lot more casual. But as a junior in that space, do you get what I mean? But you're raising a very good point.
I would have loved to work in corporate, Discovery, other places. I was really pushing for those jobs back in the days, but I guess I never, never
but
got
then
chosen.
That's the thing. You can build the persona. I genuinely think you can do anything you want.
Phase.
Genuinely.
But I don't like to also be restricted. Me, I'll say no.
You'll say no.
Yeah, no. Life. Because it's all a game, right? So how do you keep your peace playing this game?
Ooh.
How do you keep your peace?
You're asking all the good questions.
It's me, after all. I'm joking.
Okay. You have to have a strong support system. For example, I called you yesterday. That wasn't... I could only make that call because you and I are actually friends in real life.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Smiso last night. I was speaking to another friend. You need to have a strong support system. I was even speaking to my dad about something, and I really want to say this because it's so easy to look at me on the internet and say she's such a strong, almost, and people sometimes put me in this, she thinks she's perfect, kind of box, and I actively share my mistakes and I actively share where I've gone wrong to break that, because there are a lot of things that will happen that you'll come across that in your personal life, but even in your professional life, that will just require strength that lies beyond you, right? I'm Christian. I pray. I have no other method to offer to people in terms of saying this is how you survive life. Personally, for me, it's been God.
Same, yeah.
Over and above that, it's been community. So, to your point, showing up in this corporate world, being prim pro, it's not something that I think people, even senior people, love playing into, but it's just the world. I think you just have to accept it, and just say, you know what, from 8 to 5, it's who I need to be, fine, right? But you need to know that when you leave that office, you're coming back to people who are safe, to people who genuinely care about you. And I think the note that I actually want to make clear on that is that you need to get really good at saying Rudy is good for me or Rudy is bad for me. And if Rudy is bad for me, Rudy needs to go.
Yeah.
And for me, that's something that I think I've always embraced in my life, but I think I became a little bit relaxed in the past couple of years. And to be quite honest, I'm seeing the results of that. And if I were to really just save someone else the stress, is you need to be very careful about people who are in your circle. That one is a non-starter.
So how do you stay soft in a hard environment?
How do I stay soft in a hard environment? Sure. I think what helps me is just that it's also just who I am. The struggle for me is actually being hard.
Oh, wow.
That is actually what I have to work towards, because the problem is that when you soften in an environment like that, in any corporate, is that people will misinterpret that for weakness. And weakness just makes you vulnerable to a lot of things, So for me, as I said, I think I'm naturally soft. It's the toughness that I need to usually step into. But I will step into my toughness. And I don't play about that, because once again, if you're not standing up for yourself, if you're not showing people that there's a big dog inside of you, you will be taken to pillar to post, from pillar to post. And it's kind of like a balance that you need to learn how to strike and strike well. Because as I said, I'm still junior, right? I also don't have a lot of leverage. I'm still building my reputation. I'm still building my career. So it's not that if Rudy steps on my toe, I can immediately say, Rudy, but it's also, how can I say it? Allowing certain things to happen, but showing people that it's okay. I have the makeup that even in this thing maybe being a little bit difficult, I have the makeup to withstand. And I think that's sort of like the language that's the extent to which you can go at this level. But yeah, you do need to be tough. I don't know about going from toughness to softness, because as I said, for me, it's the other way around. But even for those who are soft, you need to be tough.
And like in one answer, what does this level of ambition cost you?
Ooh.
And did you ever get it back, or will you ever get it back?
Oh my word. There's an answer that came to my mind, but I don't know if I'm oversharing.
No, please, if you feel you don't have to.
No, but like these are real. No, but the thing is, these are real questions.
I'm a real guy.
And there's someone out there. Okay, in the spirit of there's someone out there who's going to watch this and who may need what came into my mind. I'll share it. I think family is the biggest sacrifice I've had to make in pursuit of my ambition. I remember a couple of years ago, like clearly saying there's no way I can start a family or have a family of my own, given how I was living, in that I'm putting in all these hours, like insane hours. And don't get me wrong, working my dream job. I'm not even, from a professional perspective, I'm not even complaining.
Trust
but
me,
being very...
Yeah. You're having a great time.
But it was still very clear to me that as an Adventist woman who has intentions or would desire an Adventist home and how it needs to show up as an Adventist woman in that space, I was like, I don't know how those worlds come together. In terms of, is it something that I definitely think is completely like lost? I don't think it's lost. But I think it is also important for us to name the cost of some of the professional decisions that we're making, because it's not fluff. This is real life. Like I always tell people that this is my real life. It's not just, I'm not playing into anything, So yeah, I think those were some of the big costs that I've had to take and I guess accept in the past couple of years.
It's going to be fine. We're coming to the end of the episode, and I want you to leave us with something practical, right? I call this the Mamello's 2026 Inner Game Playbook.
Alrighty.
So for everyone watching who's stepping into a new season, what is your game? What is your inner game playbook for this year? Okay. So you're going to give me like short answers for this. Okay. I've got a couple of questions here. So what is one mindset to carry into this year?
I can do it.
Oh, I like that. What is one boundary every ambitious person needs?
Not everyone gets access.
Are you listening, guys? One habit that builds long-term credibility.
Excellence.
The habit of excellence.
It's a habit. I wanted to say consistency, but consistently what? Consistently bad or consistently good? You just have to be consistently excellent.
Exactly. Nice. One thing to stop doing immediately.
Being indecisive.
Yeah, you need to know who you are, where you stand.
Yeah.
One truth about ambition people, or one truth ambitious people need to accept.
It's gonna cost you.
Yeah, that's deep. That's very, 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 very deep. And how do you feel about that?
Ask me in 10 years. It's still costing me now. So I don't want to make it seem like I've completely, accepted everything that it comes with. It's not an easy journey. And I would even argue and say it's one of those things where I feel like if you lean into being an ambitious person, you need to be resolute on it. You need to say, this is what I'm doing and I'm going to do it. Regardless. Because it comes with its things. And if you haven't made up your mind about about whether you're doing this or not.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for setting the tone for the year. That was my first episode. If we're going to grow, let us grow with awareness. If we're going to build, let us build with character. And if we're going to be ambitious, let us not lose ourselves in the process. This is the first conversation of the year. And if this is how we are starting, then the standard is already very high. And this is In Conversation with Rudy Samuel. I'm your host. And this has been my guest, Mamello. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. This year, we want to go as high as we can possibly go. And I want to have a live show. So hopefully you guys can come through and show support. My name is Rudy Samuel, and I'm signing all the way out.